So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, namaste, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to all of you to the Blob World Web Talks 281st episode. In the last 280 episodes, more than 7,000 school leaders have participated on this very forum where they've shared their ideas, opinions, innovation, and what all new are they doing in the education space. So, before we start today's session, just some ground rules for everyone. First and foremost, think of the Blob World Web Talks like a speaking sprint. It's a 100-meter sprint. It's not a marathon. So the speaking time is limited. So once your speaking time is over, you might get muted. If you get muted, please don't get offended. It's just to keep the activity crisp and entertaining for everyone. Secondly, whenever you see my hand up in the air or Blob World's hand up in the air, that simply means that we are giving you a prompt to conclude in the next 30 seconds. You don't need to, recognize that you see our hand. You can just, use it as a prompt to start concluding. So now is the time when we start this episode. It's a conversation that is right now taking a lot of heat. It's now picking up across globe, across countries. There are more than 42 nations that have already banned social media for teenagers. Now, what about smartphones? What about devices? What do we do with them? Is technology in the right hands? Have we trained these teenagers to handle tech? Or what are the challenges that we face? This is what we'll try to know from teenagers, from school leaders today. What are their thoughts on smartphones? Should teens be given smartphones? Should they not be given that? Is something that we'll know today. Most importantly, just some statistic for everyone. More than 95% of teenagers are currently using all sorts of social media. 40% of children under the age of 12 have access to social media when the minimum age to be on social media is 13. And the problem is, when we do an empirical study, we simply come to know that the more time they spend on social media, their mental health declines proportionately. So what should you be doing? What should teens be doing? What should parents be doing? What should school leaders be doing? Is what we are going to talk today. So to start this conversation, let's start it with a teenager rather than an adult, and then we'll go to an adult and we'll alternate between their views. So a very warm welcome to Miss Yuvna Mishra, who's a grade 8 student from Oxford Public School from Gwalior, Madhya Pradesh, India. Yuvna, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Everyone, I am Yuvna Mishra, a member of Parliament at the 5th World Teen Parliament from India. Let me start by saying something that most teenagers would never say out loud. If you took away our phones today, most of us would never know what to do with ourselves, not because we're incapable, but because we've never trained our minds to think and be without constant stimulation. So when people debate smartphone free until high school, I don't just see a parenting decision. I see a test for all of us, a test whether we can actually live without distractions. And honestly, most of us would fail. We blame apps like Instagram and YouTube for wasting our times, but honestly, let's be real. No app has ever forced you to open it. We chose it again and again. And here's the truth. We don't just use smartphones. We depend on them to avoid ourselves. Now, here's where it gets uncomfortable. People say don't take away smartphones. It will isolate teenagers socially. But I believe the total opposite has already happened. We are connected to hundreds of people online but still feel lonely. So, is removing smartphones until high school social suicide, or is it actually giving teenagers a chance to rebuild real social skills? Even founders like Steve Jobs didn't allow their own children to use an iPad. Even mentioned in the last Blub World Web Talk, you can be a businessman, but not a gentleman. So think about it for a second. The people who built these tools were the most careful to exposing their own families with them. Look at us. We struggle to focus for a single time. We check our smartphones for no reason and feel restless even in silence. That's not normal, but that's normalization. So here's what I believe. Smartphones free until high school is not a punishment, it is a protection. Also, we must remember that children learn from their parents. So, I'd suggest even parents to set a particular time where both the children and the parents would not use screen. And as mentioned in the book Atomic Habits, we must break it down. Thus, we can slowly but gradually expand our time where it would become a part of our lifestyle, not a punishment for both. So, teenagers, parents, and teachers, this is about us. Are we strong enough to build a mind that doesn't need constant stimulation, or are we slowly becoming people who cannot function without it? Thank you for giving me your precious time.
Thank you so much, Yuvna. And I think that's the apt start, that a teenager has their own insecurity. They are not trained to be bored. They are not able to handle boredom. If they get bored, they feel unsafe, they feel vulnerable. And that's where stimuli comes in. They get so much overstimulated by all the social media. So, what are we really doing? The challenge is we are not raising a distracted generation, we are designing one. Whatever is happening is by design because we are making money out of it. So are we really, prioritizing money making over building our future generation? What is it? Let's try to know it from adults and specifically from school leaders who every single day handle thousands of teenagers, their lifestyle, their tantrums, their understanding, their knowledge, their education. What do they think should be done? Because we all know whatever is happening is not by coincidence, it's by design, it's by choice. So, what do people who teach choice have to say about this? Let me invite the first school leader for today. A very warm welcome to Mr. Dhirendra Singh, the principal for Birla School from Pilani, Rajasthan, India. Dhirendra ji, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm
Thank you.
welcome.
What Yuvna mentioned is she has covered many critical points, and I'm glad that a teenager is aware of the benefits as well as the consequences. I am working in a boarding school, and I see a lot of admissions coming in because parents are fed up. They are not able to control the digital addiction of their children. So they choose a boarding school to be a place which will reform the child. Now, what Yuvna mentioned is that I agree with her. We are all a social animal. We need a social connect. And she very truly pointed out that the virtual connect is not equal to a real strength. Finally, we live in a world surrounded by people. And if our support system is strong, we will not feel vulnerable. Uh, the other thing is that money, as you mentioned, the success is rated. The successful life is that which is earning position, power, and money. Now, this is where somewhere it has gone into the psyche of our generations which are coming up. And it has not happened recently, it has happened over a period of last 25, 30 years. We need to look at it. There are many successful people who are committing suicide. There are many celebrities who have committed suicide. So that is not equivalent to a satisfactory, fulfilling life. What is my real strength? That we need to look into it. We are entering into a world which will be dominated by technology and AI. So certainly the understanding of this domain is very important. But before that, we must look into that, are we actually prepared intellectually, socially, emotionally? The present generation, and I will not say only the teenager, even the adults, we are all looking for an instant gratification. And by the way these devices are designed, they provide you this dopamine factor where you get into the addiction, and very soon you don't know where you are heading for. And then you are into a cocoon, which is a dark world. You don't know how to come out of it. So in the boarding school, when children are deprived of these devices, I have seen a major transformation in each of them. When devices are away, they make good social connection, peer relationship, their attention span increases, their physical activity increases, their thinking ability increases. More than that, they learn to take responsibility of each and every action of theirs. And that is what I feel about. Otherwise, every time I will conclude. Every time I'm looking for a digital approval from the world, and if I don't get it, I go into that depression. So on that note, I would conclude. And if opportunity comes, I'll speak again. Thank you so much, Laksh.
you so much, Mr. Dhirendra. And you're very right. Right now, parents across the globe are looking for digital monasteries. Most of the most expensive boarding schools at the moment have rebranded themselves into digital monasteries. And it's not something that's happening only in India, it's happening across multiple developed nations, across Europe, across the US, across Americas. It's really happening. If you look at California at the moment, most of the Silicon Valley founders and those engineers who are building these dopamine driven products, they know the hard impact it's going to have on their own children, and they don't send them to a regular school. They want a school to be tech free. Only then they register a child into that institution. So when you know that the creator knows the risk, why are we not realizing it? Why is every parent not considering it? Think on these lines. This is the purpose of this conversation, that we should have more quality conversations amongst teenagers, because it's only a teen who can improve the society, not a legislation, not a law. The governments can put in a legislation in place, but they'll circumvent it. That's happening in Australia. That's happening in multiple countries. So until and unless a teenager says a no, it won't be a no. So let's see what the other teens have to say. Let me invite the next teen speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Miss Vaani Sharma, who's a grade 12 student from Indian school Algubra, Muscat, Oman. Vaani, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Thanks everyone. I am Vaani Sharma, an influencer of the 5th World Teen Parliament from Oman. What if the device meant to connect us is actually wiring our kids for loneliness? In a world where, as Mr. Laksh said, 95% of teens own smartphones, is banning them until high school genius foresight or social sabotage? When I was a child, my parents encouraged us to explore the outdoors, ride bikes, and play with friends until the sun went down. Technology was limited, and those experiences shaped who I am today. Now, as I watch the younger generation grow up with smartphones in hand, I can't help but wonder, are we giving them the same opportunities to develop those fundamental life skills? As technology rapidly deepens its reach throughout the world, the numbers joining the race to become tech savvy only increase. Parents have been subjected to impossible pressure by both tech companies and society. They either give their kids a smartphone with unrestricted access to the internet or go against the social grain and risk alienating them from their peer group. The biggest reason kids get smartphones today is not because they're ready, it's because everyone else has one. Kids with full access to smartphones before age 12 face a 60% higher risk of anxiety and depression, according to a 2023 JAMA Pediatric study. So, it becomes crucial that parents understand the fine line when early exposure becomes excessive exposure. If this access goes unregulated, it can lead to so many negative impacts, such as sleep issues, reduced attention spans, and lower self esteem. But then again, is restricting smartphone use until high school inadvertently leading to social isolation? Is turning kids into outcasts from online connectivity their social suicide? People say that social media fosters connections. Yet, studies from the University of Arizona show that early smartphone users report higher loneliness, not less. The formative years are crucial for social development. A child should spend these years in the real world, not in front of a smartphone. A child should learn empathy through personal interactions, not through the lens of a screen. A child should be raised a human, not another digital avatar. I would like to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vani. And I think the last line really puts it all together. We are raising humans, not a digital avatar. We are literally looking the other way when we see the damage happening right in front of our own eyes. As adults, we have been, privy to seeing social media coming into life, and we making a choice whether we want to be there or not. And if we want to be there, when do we want to be there? But have we given the choice to the future generation? I don't think so. Because the peer pressure is so much. The environmental circumstances are so rigid. They're seeing their parents use it, they're seeing their friends use it. It's not a choice. It has become kind of a pressurized decision that they have to take, that, I have to be there. It's a FOMO that has been created. Why are we doing that? Just because we cannot leave a screen? Humans learn through emulation. They never learn through instruction. That's why we saw so much of rebellion in teenagers. When a parent is on the screen, a kid can never be away from the screen. This discussion is really not about a teenager, it's really about an adult. And are we really looking at leaving those screens from our households? Are we ready to put them away? If we are not, I think we have the wrong expectation from the right people. So let's see what other speakers have to say. Let's go to a school leader now. A very warm welcome to Miss Doreen Onyekwelu, the school leader and principal for the Lagoon School from Lagos, Nigeria. Ma'am, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome. And I hope I pronounced your name right.
And thank you so much for inviting me to this global platform. Imagine giving 10-year-old children keys to powerful cars without teaching them to drive. That's what we are doing when we hand over smartphones to young children. And we've seen the devastating effects. I'm also happy hearing our children here talk about it. Distracted learning, sleep-deprived students, and a decline in real-life friendships. So in my school, the Lagoon School in Nigeria, we discourage the use of smartphones. They never bring it to school. And our aim is simple: to create a safer, more focused learning environment. Our students are less distracted while learning, and they have more time to build real friendships and play in school, which is very important. Our alumni will always tell us that the friends they're keeping now are those friends they made while in secondary school. And our policy isn't about banning technology, it's about shaping how and when and why students engage with it. So our approach is centered around empowering our students to be responsible citizens with a strong emphasis on respect, empathy, which one of the students mentioned, and discipline. We have integrated digital citizenship and ethics in our curriculum, preparing our students for a safe and responsible digital future. We keep our students engaged with lots of extracurricular activities because you have to find something to engage them, and also our character education. It forms part of our grading system, and the children are happy with it. Our results are clear. For their sense of responsibility, we see our children demonstrating it, and they still excel academically. However, we face challenges with parents who don't collaborate with this simple principle at home. Some parents struggle to set boundaries. They allow them to use phones at home, and it affects their children's performance in school. We've seen students struggle with late night social media use, impacting their focus in class as they're sleeping, and even their entire well-being. We encourage our parents to monitor their children's online activities and rather use desktops in open spaces in the living room, for instance, but never to leave them with phones on their own. And truly, by delaying smartphones, we're giving our children the gift of childhood, a chance to develop essential life skills, build meaningful relationships, and focus on their future. Let's make a difference by parenting smartly. Thank you.
Ms. Doreen, I think digital citizenship must be a part of every single curriculum everywhere on the face of the earth. Now, at the World Teen Parliament, we give teenagers an opportunity to talk to policymakers, to school leaders, to, their peers across multiple countries. The idea behind it is very simple. When you see an individual on social media, you see a persona. You don't see the person. When you come on a video call like this, you start seeing the person. And when you go beyond a simple debate into a conversation, into a Q&A, into a to and fro, that's when you really understand people. And that's where you start building relationships. The biggest problem that we are giving to the next generation is building relationships only with the persona. We are making connections online, on LinkedIn, on different places. We don't know the people. We don't know why do we have that relationship. Their perfect moment looks like their life to us. And it increases our depression and we start self-abnegation. Should we be doing it? When you have connection, use it to an extent where you come to know individuals rather than just their persona by a photograph or a small little video that might be there. Let's connect to connect deeply and disconnect from the personas that we are currently, obsessed with. Thank you so much, Ms. Doreen. Let me invite the next teen speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Mr. Laksh Chavan, who's a grade 8 student from the St. Paul's High School from Hyderabad, Telangana, India. Mr. Laksh, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself and a very warm welcome.
Greetings to one and all present here. I'm Laksh Chavan, a student of grade 8 from St. Paul's High School, Hyderabad. When I first heard smartphone free until high school, my immediate reaction was that's ridiculous. I'm a student. I use my phone for notes, for research, for staying connected. Delaying that felt like preparing me for a world run on technology by keeping me away from it. But when the data hit me, everything I assumed collapsed. Teenagers with unrestricted access using social media for 3.5 hours every single day, facing double the risk of anxiety and depression. 46% of teenage girls reporting that it made them feel worse about their own bodies. Meta's own internal research confirmed that they knew this publicly, and yet they chose to continue in the same way. Now that is real social suicide, happening within the same generation attending this call. So, is delaying smartphones until high school really smart parenting? Well, technically, yes. Shielding a vulnerable developmental window from platforms deliberately engineered to exploit it. But when the teenager, upon entering high school, receives the same phone with the same harmful effects, they're not being protected, they're just being delayed. So, how can we ensure that this decision actually remains effective? Well, I suggest that two things must happen simultaneously. Firstly, governments must legislate precisely, forcing these platforms to ban the specific features which harm minors. Second, these years of delay must be used to bridge the gap that the child will face in their preparedness regarding technology. They must learn what is algorithmic literacy. These platforms, how the algorithms are trained to use our insecurity, to exploit it, to feed it back to us, to keep us glued to the screen. Second, and the most important, is that every child must build digital skills coding, creation, problem solving. Because we do not want teenagers entering high school as victims of technology. We want them to be well equipped to lead with it. So I leave you with this. The decision to delay is already being made across the world. The only question that is left to ask is that will we use these years of delay wisely enough to make sure the world that our children are entering is a world they are equipped to lead with? Because this generation is already preparing itself. And the next time they pick up a phone, it will be a tool, not a trap. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Laksh. I think it's a very apt perspective in the conversation that you can remove tech, but you'll make them a victim of tech by the time they get a phone. So are we just delaying agony, or are we preparing them to deal technology by the time they have it? Because I think we are not preparing them for anything. The kind of dopamine rush that a teenager gets by looking at social media is nearly equivalent to the dopamine rush that you would get by using a minor narcotic. It's exactly the same. So when you don't want them to use narcotics, why are you ready to make them use social media and all the platforms that, where the purpose is to make money? We have, what I could say, we have propagated the idea of making money to such an extent that being immoral is considered being smart. Do we really want a society where immorality is considered smartness? because you are shrewd. Why is shrewd a good word now? We have to understand the terminology, that why is the connotation of words being chosen by just propaganda and not by education. Because the problem is linguistics will define your thoughts, and your thoughts will design your personality. And that personality will typically make our society. So it has to start with conversations. It has to start with linguistics. That what really, what's the meaning of a particular word? Don't go too hazy on it. When you know it's immoral, you should be able to say it out loud that no, it's not clever, it's not smart. You are tricking people. Don't do that. That's not ethics, even when you might be spending billions of dollars on, keeping your brand up. What do the educators think? What do teenagers think? And are they really able to exchange what they think? Or are we just in that rat race of perceptions? Let's see what a school leader has to say on this. Just some food for thought. Let me invite the next speaker for today. A very warm welcome to Dr. Nisha Sharma, the principal of International School from Ambala, Haryana, India. Dr. Nisha, over to you for the next 3 minutes. Please unmute yourself, and a very warm welcome.
Yeah, greetings, everybody. And my previous speakers have talked a lot about, this topic and the title on which we are discussing today. So the first and foremost thing as a school principal, what I face on daily basis is the parents' interaction. More than training students in my school, I feel that it's required to train parents today. Because at times they only come and they are so much bound, they are so much, behind us that, ma'am, kindly you do something so that our children stop using smartphones. Now, I literally feel very sorry about it. In our times, parents never laid their hands in front of schools, asking to stop children doing something. Values, instilling values in student is a work of parent, not a school, in fact. But yes, we don't deny also. We do at times, and we have been doing it wonderfully well. But ultimately, what is happening? What I see in my students today, they are not using smartphones as tool. They are using as a necessity in their life. If taken away a smartphone, we have seen children committing suicide. We are here not only talking about the social suicide, actual suicides, right? So we need to take our students out of the virtual world, and we have to explain them the necessity of living in a real world. So, Generation Z is very fragile, we all know now, but we also need to make them strong and explain them the reasons that why they need to live in a real world. Only banning social media platforms will not work right over here. So, the tool through which the social media platforms have been offered, actually, we need to see on that also. So government can do a wonderful job if they intervene into it. In India, especially, I talk. And yes, it is a very complex issue. I understand it may take time, but together, when a parent and a school will work hand in hand, definitely we can do it. So the conclusion over here is that it is an alarming situation, alarming call for all of us, that now we should start living in a real world and not in a virtual world. So this is what I would like to tell. Rest the previous speakers have been covering till now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sharma. And, more and more we try to bring them back to the real world. The problem is your suggestion looks like a restriction. And if you try to restrict an adolescent, the problem is rebellion. And that rebellion creates a wall where no conversation happens. That's why at the beginning, what I tried to, put forth was, if you really want a change, the decision maker is the teenager. The adult can only be an influencer. The adult is not a decision maker. And if governments really think putting a ban on, smartphones or devices for teenagers could be effective, I have a question for you. If policing was so damn successful, why is criminality, immorality now being praised? Policing can only work on the after effects of it. It can control it to some extent. But when you're talking of something so psychosomatic, legislation can only be some words with absolutely no authority. It has to come from the education ecosystem and specifically from teenagers. So now we have listened to all the speakers for today. Now it's an open floor for the next 2 or 3 minutes. If anyone wants to add something, if you got muted, if there was something that you wanted to put forth, you can just raise your hand. I can invite you for a minute. You can speak, and before we conclude the session. Anyone who's there on the call, you can just raise your hand and I'll invite you to add your thoughts to the topic. The idea of having these conversations, the idea of having these Blub World Web Talks involving teenagers and educators and everyone come together is very simple. The lecture mode of learning is dead. It's not dead just because technology is available. Even around 2,500 years ago, Socrates said the worst form of teaching is the lecture mode. Teaching has to happen in the form of a conversation. It can never be content delivery. But just for the scale of education, we made it into content delivery, since we wanted to teach millions and billions of people. So why can't we have conversations where a teenager is able to interact with a teenager sitting in Australia, in Spain, in Canada, in Japan? Why can their opinions not come together? Giving them the authority and the ability to have an opinion gives them teaching and learning on its own. Why do we restrict them from that? I think Dhirendra wants to add something. Dhirendra sir, over to you for a minute for adding your thoughts. Yeah, please.
Thank you, Daksh. What Nisha ma'am mentioned about the values getting from schools. So somewhere parents have shifted this responsibility to school. It is like buying a commodity. Now, parenting is not a substitute, and school cannot substitute for a parent. And one of our student participants, she mentioned about that there is a lot of pressure on parents because every other child is getting a device. Now, parents are in a state of dilemma. I cannot give quality time, so I try to compensate it by giving all possible luxuries. And these devices are so addictive that every birthday gift, the child will raise flag 1 year before that I want such and such device in my hand. And parent also feel getting rid of that guilt that I'm not taking care of the child. So I feel that, and in my opinion, a parent must be affirmative, and if you want to give them a device, maybe it can be a small handset, where you are saved from this digital what you call the hacking system. And children must understand that today, whatever they are putting on the social media, tomorrow it might land them into some kind of trouble, because now US has said that they will observe the last 5 years of the social media. You are applying for a US visa and you are applying for a job. And today, because you're not mature, you will put some thought, and that thought is going to remain on that platform for indefinite time. So if we teach our students that these are the consequences and you should wait for that right time until you are prepared, again, I would say intellectually, emotionally, socially, and with that judgment of taking that call of self-responsibility, and that mostly happens somewhere between 16 to 18 years. Because you are entering into an AI world where your thinking has to be deep. So if your attention span is short, you are compromising on your success for what you are working today. Thank you.
Absolutely, you're very right. The idea of social media was to make everyone's life absolutely public. But you have to remember, humans evolve, humans change. Digital footprint does not. It stays there exactly the same way when it can even adversely affect you. I think Doreen ma'am wants to add something. Ms. Doreen, over to you. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you so much. I really concur, because the most important thing we have to do is to work hand in hand with the parents. Yes, the children are the ones to decide, but if the parents, or who buys the phones for the children, is actually the parents. So if the parents understand that aspect, how it's affecting their children, they'll see the need not to buy it for them. And the second thing I will say is we must engage our children. They're just bored. They're looking for what to do. So playing with them at home, creating a cineforum, whatever it is, just to be with them, getting to know them. We have to create that forum because if we don't have it, they'll keep getting bored and keep thinking that they are missing out from using smartphone. So it's key that parent student or parent children relationships, teacher student relationship. That's why we engage a lot in extracurricular activities. And I would like to end by recommending reading this book, The Anxious Generation, written by Jonathan Haidt. It provides scientific insights into the impact of smartphones on children. And I think it's best parents read it and teachers read it. We need to work together to create a safer, healthier environment for our children to thrive. Very important. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Doreen. I think the written word, the book becomes so boring when you get exposed to such high stimuli. That is why this is one more reason that it has to be removed from the lives of teenagers by teens themselves. The parent has to be trained, but yes, it has to come from the teenager. The conversation has to start from them. I think Laksh wants to add something. Laksh, over to you. I would request Doreen ma'am to please share the name of the book in the chat so that everyone can, look it up after the session. Laksh, over to you.
Thank you, sir, for giving me this chance. Actually, I would like to add to what we were discussing previously that change can only happen from within, because that's a point that we must realize. Actually, the positive thing which is being noticed now is that nearly 48% of teenagers are realizing that social media has a mostly negative effect on people their age. And 44% of teenagers have actually tried to cut back on their own. So I believe the greatest responsibility that the other generations have is to create conditions which can accelerate this realizing and awakening. So we just broad bans casting a total enforcement of these bans on teenagers will not actually work out. We must actually support their own realization. That's what I believe. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think that's where I concur very strongly that it's rather a journey of realization than a journey of restriction. If you try to restrict, you'll always get rebellion. You'll have to take them through a journey of realizations to build wisdom. Only then it'll last. Otherwise, it'll just be a makeshift patchwork sort of thing. I think Yuvna wants to add something. Yuvna, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Honestly, I want to add this one thing. Think about it for a second. Like, we all agree that we are having a high dopamine rush while using smartphones. But think, if we give a teenager a Nokia phone, a keypad, will they get the same dopamine rush while using that? No. So, what I feel, it's also because of social media. What I feel, parents shall be taking care of those things. See, I have seen many of my friends who are using social media where these people are talking to people double or triple their age, to adults. And I feel that is totally wrong. And as sir even mentioned that we are having these web talks so that we can have real interaction. We must know who we are talking to. So what I feel is teenagers must understand whatever they are doing would have a greater effect, a dominoes effect on their life. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much, Yuvna. And I think the purpose of the World Teen Parliament or the purpose of these all these platforms is simply that the realization starts within teenagers. Only a teenager can inspire another teenager. An adult can only restrict them. When an adult enters a room of teenagers, the vibe changes instantly. Why does that happen? Because the problem is, by the time you're a teenager, you have listened to so many advices from your parents, from your relatives, from everyone, that you think whatever is coming out of their mouth is going to bore me down. You are prejudiced because your ecosystem was small. When you are in a joint family, why do we say it takes a village to raise a child? The more people you have around you, the better individual you become. Your ecosystem trains you on its own. That's why I said emulation is where, evolution happens. It does not happen through instruction. And we are trying to instruct. We have to take a step back and teenagers have to take a step forward. Figure out a way of having these conversations and more of these conversations amongst yourselves. That's the purpose of the World Teen Parliament, inciting conversations and quality conversations. So before this call comes to an end, just think of a simple scenario. Getting an iPhone is no more a status tag if you're in one of the most developed countries and you are in the elite society there. Having a brick phone is. Can you bring this perception to your community? Can you get this realization to everyone that the most expensive commodity that any human has on this planet is your time? And most of it, you're trading it for someone who's going to make money out of it. Think on all of these things. Just some food for thought. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of the Blob World Web Talks. This was the 281st episode. If you enjoyed the session, put your both hands up in the air and wave them like this so that we know that you want to be a part of the next conversation. Thank you so much, everyone. Loved your energy. Thank you so much. Have an amazing day, evening, or an afternoon ahead of you. Bye-bye. Enjoy it.